Welcome to the Sharpe Way Show. So happy that you have joined me today. Yes, it is 7 p.m. on the East Coast, and I am here. It is a Wednesday evening, and I am very happy that I'm talking today about something that we don't often talk about. It's an interesting idea, and it's the idea of nuclear energy. I know, not nuclear, not that, nuclear energy. Yes, we're talking about that, and why would that matter? Why do any of you care about that? Well, as a general rule, you might not, right? You might say, well, I don't care about that stuff. As long as I can turn on my, TV or my computer, that's all I care about. But in New York State, for those of you who don't know, we have already decided that now you cannot have a gas connection to any building in New York State. I think it's after 2024, if I'm not mistaken. None. So now you have to run everything through electricity. You might go, well, Larry, that's good. That's green. Okay, I got that. But we have to figure out how to move those power plants, don't we? Because the power plants aren't going and pumping all that electricity into our house. We don't have any heat. We don't have any way of cooking. We don't have any of those things. So it does matter. And while I'm not against solar, I am not against wind, all good if it all works. I am for all of the things, to include nuclear energy. And most people that I talk to go, Larry, they're shutting down Indian Point and the world's ending. And I talk about the idea of what most people talk about, which is Generation 4 nuclear energy, which is a different way or different style of nuclear energy, far safer. And I wanted to bring someone aboard. This guy's been bugging me a lot to come on the show, and I'm glad he has. I'm very happy he's been bugging me, but he wanted to talk heavily about it. He's part of the Thorium Energy Alliance. That sounds super cool, and hopefully he'll tell us about it. The man himself, James Ray. How are you, sir?
Just fine, Larry. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Of course. No, I'm happy that you gave me some time. And by the way, for those who don't know, he was supposed to be on last night, but I wasn't doing a show last night, and I pushed him off, not realizing that I didn't bother communicating that with everybody. So my mistake. He was supposed to be on last night. Totally my error, as I was setting up my schedule last year. So thank you for your patience, James. I appreciate it.
I'm just thrilled we aren't having sound problems. Normally, the sound just totally fails whenever I go on anybody's podcast. So I'm just thrilled to be able to hear you. But let me tell you why I think nuclear is important and
Please
why
tell me.
I want it for our future. And it comes down actually with me to a silly cartoon. And I hope I can show this properly. I'm famous for showing it.
Pull it back.
Okay.
Pull it back. There we go. Better.
Wait. Anyway,
pull the banner off. Hold on. Go ahead.
I'm so bad at this, but
okay. Tell me what it says.
Okay, the various competing things are sugar, coal, fat, gasoline, and uranium. And uranium is the giant stack of paper with 76 million, and gasoline is the highest with 46 of the others. And the caption says, "Science tip: log scales are for quitters who can't find enough paper to make their point properly." Now, I know this isn't probably the greatest joke. I mean, I clearly I should not quit my day job. But to me, this is really funny. 76 million is a lot bigger than 46. And
That's
solar
true.
Solar and wind actually lose to the losers because they're intermittent. If you've ever tried to do anything solar, you end up having to do it with a battery too. And batteries are just a pain, Their batteries are.
But hold on, James. We're gonna go to batteries. Isn't the current, I guess the current argument against you would be, but batteries are getting better all the time, and we're gonna have eventually an amazing battery that we can, the light will be on now, and we're gonna have this awesome battery that is going to be fine for when the sun is not up. Isn't that what people tell you?
They do, but the people in the thorium group that I'm in, the Libertarian Party Energy from Thorium Caucus, which is kind of a misnomer, but I'll get into that. They would say and a lot of them are very much smarter than me. They've run nuclear reactors, they've run submarine reactors and aircraft carrier reactors, and they've just done all kinds of things with nuclear, and they've had their lives depend on nuclear.
Sure.
Rather than just being a kind of an occasional user like I am, where I've been a civilian all my life. I don't really depend on nuclear that much. But if you look at the energy density, if you look at the efficiency efficiency of what we could do with nuclear for mankind. And if you've seen the kind of poverty I've seen, because I've done a little bit of traveling, I'm not a huge world traveler, but I've flown over Haiti. And flying over Haiti is heartbreaking because you see this line. There's this one side that's brown and the other side is green, and the green side is the DR and the brown side is Haiti. And then you look closer and you're looking down and you see a lot of Haiti's topsoil is on what used to be Haiti's coral reefs. And you realize that, look, we've got to get these people some prosperity. We've got to change these people's lives, and we can't do it without just an emergency type of, massive prosperity injection. And not just for those poor people, because there's probably an Einstein or a Tesla among them, but among all kinds of third world poor people, because what
about us poor people here in America? There's poor people here too.
And there will be innovation and all kinds of beautiful things. In the 5-minute video, at the 3-minute mark, there's a 5-minute video that we'll link to here. At the 3-minute mark, it talks about creating liquid fuels from atmospheric air, where we just suck nitrogen and carbon and all that out of the air.
That is the current plan for us to get fuel to come back from Mars.
Yeah, and that will work. If we have cheap enough power, that will totally work. And it's very exciting to me to think of the prosperity that could prevent people from going to war over oil ever again.
I like that idea.
From having want, because right now,
But hold on. You're giving me a bunch of awesome stuff. This all sounds great. I love it. I love it. But if it's so awesome, James, if it's so amazing, why isn't everybody rushing to do it? Why haven't we said, oh my God, James is right. This stuff is so awesome. Let's make like 45 of these reactors tomorrow. What's stopping that from happening?
A few things, but the worst of them from a libertarian point of view is a concept called regulatory capture.
What? Are you telling me that big business takes over stuff with regulations? That's never happened before, ever.
I know. Once you are a Nuclear Regulatory Commission bureaucrat, basically, and you've been employed there for 10 or 15 years, what you want is to serve that extra 5 or 10 years and get that government retirement. And you don't want to take any risks. You don't want there to be any accidents because of you. You don't want to get anything blamed on the NRC. You want everything, everything's working right now. Let's just keep everything working. And that strategy has worked really well for a long time, but not for innovation. For the innovation that we need is molten salt. And the reason that we need it is that pumps are the devil. Pumps, I've lived all my life around outboard motors and engines. And when your pump fails,
I can tell by the hat.
Yeah. The fun is over when the pump fails. The pump, once your engine overheats, everything's dead. And so what fascinated me initially with this idea, I heard a guy asking President Obama a question about it, but I started Googling immediately before Obama had even answered. And of course, Obama kind of dodged and all that. But anyway, I was down the rabbit hole from then on. And really, I had been on this rabbit hole since high school, because the idea is a nuclear powered jet airplane, which is totally crazy. And it was a Cold War idea that I thought was totally crazy, but that we didn't separate that idea of the reactor, the molten salt reactor, separating that from the airplane. You don't have to fly a molten salt reactor around in an airplane to have a molten salt reactor, and to have it be very, very safe because it's operating with a molten medium. So when the coolant is the
hold on, you're going way down a rabbit hole. So so what you're saying basically is you have some type of reactor, say for example, on the aircraft carrier, and that is what fuels the plane that takes off. Is that what you're saying?
That would be the smart way to do it, but the dumb way to do it was what we were considering in the 50s, where, okay, the Air Force, and you've been in the military and I haven't, so you know this more than me. The Air Force and the Navy and the Army and everybody else are all competitive, and it isn't just a football game. They're generally competitive. And when the Air Force hears about the Navy going under the North Pole with a nuclear sub, they're like, wait a minute, we need nuclear bombers too. And they ended up getting nuclear missiles that worked better, and were more reliable. But the idea of a nuclear bomber where the bomber is just staying aloft for months and months and months did occur to these people. And the people that were tasked with it kind of said,
okay, but I don't want to talk about nuclear bombers. I want to talk about power plants in New York State personally, or any other state in America. And you went to the NRC, right, which is the Nuclear Regulatory Committee. Did I get that right?
Commission, yeah.
Commission, sorry, commission, not committee. Commission, right? So, as a general rule,
safety. They are totally for safety above all else. Safety.
I'm sure. But that's not going to help us, right? I got you. I'm sure they are. So what power do they have? Let's assume, just for the sake of argument, some crazy governor decides that he wants to authorize building a nuclear power plant in his state. I'm saying theoretical, some random state would decide, I want to build one. And the NRC says, you may not. And I go, I don't care, I'm building one. What power do they have? Do they send in the Marines to take over the place? Do they fine? What do they do? What's their power?
That is the greatest question, Larry. And I don't know the answer, but I have suggested that it might be a good idea, not just to people like you, but to Ricky Dale Harrington and other people who are thinking of being governors. And,
maybe we'll test that out one day soon.
I'd be for it, definitely. But
maybe
I have no idea what
will.
the NRC would do. I mean, the thing is, each instance is different. So, I mean, can we have cannabis growing in our state? Well, apparently we can. Can we have suppressors for our guns if you don't take them out of the state? Maybe we can. Can we have other, things that are federally illegal but really don't have any victim? I think we can. But what I want to do with nuclear, is just let there be the 50 experiments that, like you're just talking about.
Well, hold on. You're saying the 50 experiments. That's scary. This is the scary part, right? I'm being very forward. There are a lot of people who are very savvy and care and want change, but man, they hear nuclear and they go, I don't want an experiment. Then it's going to be a nuclear bomb in my backyard. Then it's going to be, explosion in my backyard. We're all going to be nuked to death. I mean, that's what everyone feels and is scared of. But you and I both know that when you start doing the molten salt reactor, when you use thorium, that's not going to happen. Can you walk down that road a little bit? Tell me how that's not going to happen.
The key is that gravity is the pump rather than the pump that can fail. Pumps have been plagued my lifetime. Rather than the pump, you have gravity. And every time I have fallen on my ass, gravity has worked to make me fall all the way down on my ass and hit the ground hard. Gravity is an extremely reliable force. And so I feel confident trusting in gravity where I wouldn't really trust in a mechanical pump. And the molten salt reactor uses this thing called a freeze plug, where the reactor is sitting there, and the freeze plug is kind of a kink in the pipe that's got a fan blowing cold air or gas over it. And as long as everything's fine, then the reactor operates normally. If something goes wrong and the power goes out to this fan, then suddenly the freeze plug melts. All the molten salt goes draining down by gravity without any humans involved into a place where it can passively cool down, and everybody's safe. And so
so there's no meltdown like in Fukushima?
Meltdown is situation normal. Meltdown is what's already safe. I mean, chemistry wants to happen in liquids and gases. It doesn't really want to happen in solids. And we are humans. We try to make it happen in solids. I don't know why, but for various reasons. But the chemists that were at Oak Ridge, Alvin Weinberg, this genius who was at Oak Ridge, who was at Edison level, Einstein level genius, Mendeleev level, even maybe, Tesla level, possibly.
So maybe even Larry Sharpe level. Maybe.
Possibly Larry Sharpe level too.
Probably
but
not.
This guy was a really, really smart guy like you. And what he did, he realized that chemistry happens in liquids really, really well. And it doesn't happen all that well in solids, and that's why, our light water reactor fleet, it still competes with coal and oil and all that, but it would compete much better if it were done with liquids. There would be no more waste problems. Because right now the waste.
No, but hold on. Even with that, isn't there still waste? I mean, even if you use a molten salt reactor, right? Isn't there still waste?
Yes and no. The waste, quote unquote, yeah, I know. I'm gonna be the quote waste that you'd get out of one of these is plutonium-238, which is not the same thing as plutonium-239. Plutonium-239 is good for bombs. Plutonium-238 is what's in the Voyagers and what's in the Mars rover and what's in the robots out in space. It's very, very hot, as in temperature, physically hot. You couldn't touch it, but it's pretty radioactive too. But there's three. I don't want to get into the kinds of radiation there are.
No worries. So what you're telling me though is, so the stuff we're using, the thorium. I'm sorry. Let me actually show everybody that this is it is the Thorium Energy Alliance. If you guys want to go check that out, that's actually his website. You can check that out if you want to. But the thorium that we're using, along with the system of the molten salt reactor, you're telling me that is not something that people could grab and make nuclear bombs from?
Not easily.
Okay.
Uranium-233, which is what you get when you hit thorium with a neutron, you get uranium-233, is fissile. And uranium-235 is fissile. Right now, we use uranium-235, and we enrich the uranium that we get to get uranium-235. And we can also enrich uranium-238 by hitting it with a neutron, and that makes plutonium, which was really exciting to the bomb makers. You know, especially early on in the atomic bomb era, we were like, wow, this is a good thing.
Let's go back to my question, though.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I use the molten salt reactor. I'm using thorium. I got some waste. Do the bad guys come in and try to rob me and take my waste and make bombs?
They could, in theory. It wouldn't be that bright. I mean, if I was a bad guy and I had a choice between a molten salt reactor and a light water reactor, I would definitely choose the light water reactor, because if I could control the light water reactor for a while, I could make plutonium, which is a lot more convenient to make bombs with than uranium-233. Uranium-235 is okay for bombs. That was the Hiroshima bomb, actually. But plutonium is a really good choice for bombs. Uranium-233, the problem with that and using that for bombs, and it would work. I mean, I think the Navy actually exploded a uranium-233 device. But
you're not helping.
I know. I just got to be honest. The problem with uranium-233 is that when you create it, it's almost impossible to separate out the creation of uranium-232. And uranium-232 isn't fissile, but it has a hard gamma ray, which makes it really easy to detect. And it wants to kill your scientists, and it wants to ruin your explosives. And it's bad for your nuclear weapon. And so you don't want to use uranium-233 because you'll end up with a lot of uranium-232.
Those guys, those hanger-on guys that you never want around. I hate those guys. I'm with you. Yes.
Yeah. Instead, you'd want to use a light water reactor, and that's what the North Koreans did. You know, we gave them a light water reactor, and they used that to make a bomb. That wasn't smart of us. Yeah. Did we make them sign something that said, we're not going to let you use this? Yeah, of course we did. But it doesn't work. The thing is, would it have been possible with giving
So let me go back now.
Okay.
If that's the case, right? If that's the case, why isn't everyone across the world doing this? I think if I remember right, India's doing some of this, right?
Kind of.
Because look, we have NRC. We've got the commission. Other countries don't. They've got different stuff. Why aren't the Indians doing it? Why aren't the Chinese doing it? Why isn't everybody else doing it? They don't have NRC.
The Chinese are doing it.
They are doing it.
Yeah, the Chinese found the Kirk Sorensen research that I found, and they got nice and excited. And so the Chinese will be putting out liquid fluoride thorium reactors in a shipping container or two within the next 5 years, if my guess is right. But the reason we haven't done this and the world hasn't done this is a really weird reason that,
I
don't know. I'm going to have to, there's a thing called first mover advantage. And I know you've heard of it. And it's what keeps, other cryptocurrencies, for example, are possibly better than Bitcoin.
Yep.
but Bitcoin had first mover advantage.
Sure.
Before Bitcoin, I worked with this company called eGold. That's my shirt right here, actually, eGold.
Mhm.
And before the cryptocurrencies, eGold had first mover advantage, and first mover advantage is such a successful thing that it can fool you into thinking you're smart when you're really not smart. You've just got first mover advantage. And
Okay.
I learned that the hard way by not being smart, but we had first mover advantage. But, I had a few really good years of life. Then the US government attacked us. Now I say Bitcoin is karma for eGold, because they can't stop Bitcoin. We
Right.
were centrally controlled, and so they could stop us. But let's get back to
So,
thorium.
so let me grab a couple of comments. People are asking some questions. I'm going to grab some. Ryan says, from a policy perspective, I'd like to know if he feels the NRC is intentionally dragging their feet or just unmotivated and disincentivized to anything else. What's your view on that?
I'm probably more on the unmotivated and disincentivized, especially disincentivized. Imagine being a 15-year NRC bureaucrat. What you are trying to do with a government job, once you have 15 years in that government job, is to stay low. You want to get that retirement. You've got to get another 5 years. I've got a cousin who works for the. I'm probably going to get him in trouble by saying this. I got a cousin.
Don't say anything. It's not a cousin. You have a friend.
Yeah, I got a friend who works for the Department of Transportation, and he is staying in. He'll probably stay in for 25 years because he had a kid. But it's very political. You don't want to make waves.
100%.
And saying something as an NRC commissioner, I heard this nut job from Florida named James M. Ray talking about liquid fluoride thorium reactors, and he's all excited. So now I'm excited. That doesn't sound good in the meetings.
So let me go to my next comment. Joel says there needs to be a thorough look through the regulations. It is 25 years to get a project going, but I would bet, and this is just my assumption on this, the reason why it takes long to get everything going is because everyone is incentivized, as you said, to say no, right? Yeah. Nobody wants it to go wrong. If you incentivize people to say yes, the project gets done a whole lot faster. So if we change the system, Joel, and get people to be incentivized to say yes, I think things change, which is why I always talk about government agencies. Government agencies cannot be, or should not be, if you want success. Their mission shouldn't be to stop this, to make everything safe, to make sure nothing goes wrong. Their mandate and their mission should always be to do the thing, just do it safely, but to do the thing. If the thing's not getting done, the agency's still in trouble. And we don't do that. And that should be what we're talking about. It should be, we have to build out energy a safe way, not we just can't, we got to make sure nothing goes wrong. So if we re-incentivize, I think we can. Plus, what if, this is my question earlier, and I'll say this to Joel too, what if we just ignore the federal government?
That's not always healthy.
That 25 goes down real short all of a sudden. It's not 25 years anymore.
But one thing that could effectively ignore the federal government would be to just take things to, I think, the Kirk Sorensen company. Kirk's the genius that did all the start stuff. I think the Kirk Sorensen company is doing this in Indonesia, but I'm excited about El Salvador because of their Bitcoin, but any little country, any country that is, I don't want to use the term desperate, but looking for a competitive
advantage. You mean like a state saying in the United States that's completely broke, that its economy is completely destroyed, that people have been leaving for like 12 years, that has no chance of any fiscal solvency whatsoever? You mean something like that?
Yeah, especially if they had a pervert governor.
Yes, who just got booted. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
But okay, so a state or a little country, or I mean, I don't care. It can be in Florida.
So let me ask the question then. Let's say that we didn't have that. Let's say that I go to whatever, the country or the state, wherever that place is, and the leadership in that state or country go, James, do this. Make this thing happen. Go. I'm not in your way. How long is it? Is this something that gets built in 5 years, 2 years, 5, 6 months, 20 years? How fast does one of these get built that would be big enough to make impact in an actual area?
Are you talking about normal, market urgency, or Manhattan Project World War II all out urgency?
No, I'm talking, I'm just not in your way at all, right? Not that I'm helping you or assisting you. I'm just not in your way. Anything in the way, I go, no, not in your way, go. That's your way, nope, go.
Maybe 10 years? I don't know. See, the thing is, now you're going to discover why I'm a problem. Okay, I am so-called the leader or something of the Libertarian Party Energy from Thorium Caucus, but actually,
Kind of why you're on.
I'm just the loudest monkey. Okay, and they found out that
I
like
like loud monkeys.
monkeys choose their troops leader not by which is the smartest monkey, and not even by which is the strongest monkey, but which is the loudest monkey. And so I'm the loudest monkey in the group.
Congratulations.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's all sorts. Just about every single other monkey is smarter than me. Okay, I mean, especially the ones who have run reactors in the military, every damn one of them. And so, I want them to take over, but of course, nobody wants this job. There's no pay, and mostly it's just begging for people to notice the idea of nuclear power.
So let me ask you, why does the left hate nuclear energy so much?
I'm hoping they don't. I'm trying to reach out to them. Nuclear energy to me is the free pony, Vermin supreme. It always goes down. It always gets back to vermin. But nuclear energy for me is the free pony of energy. It's what we want, because we want prosperity. We want goodness. We want, as libertarians, we actually want good things for people. And that's why I wave around that cartoon and all that. We have such a potential to help humanity. And it's such a sin that nuclear power was born of war.
Yes.
It kills me. It's perversion, because war is the health of the state, as Randolph Bourne said. And it's really terrible. Pardon me while I mix drinks.
Mix your drink. I love it. I got you going. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes.
I'll tell you, tonight's actually my crypto night. And so normally, and people should join this group, even if you're not in Tampa. The Tampa Bay Bitcoineers, on Wednesday nights, we have awesome meetings that are really fun and funny. And
I know I can tell you're mixing your drink already. But I want to go back to this one though. Dustin says, is nuclear waste still a thing, or can you dispose of it properly? That waste, is it easy to be disposed of, or no?
Not easy, but totally possible. And that's why I'm totally against the idea of sending the waste out to Yucca Mountain. I mean, that waste is potential fuel, and as far as we're concerned. And there's an hour and 45-minute long Energy from Thorium video that nobody but me watches.
Okay.
Nobody watches these long videos. The YouTube.
Why am I looking at your arm right now?
Because
there you are. Okay, I was looking at your arm. Okay, good.
Getting back to my chair. Sorry, but nobody watches my long videos. But I will link to that one too, because it's fascinating how waste, what we think of as nuclear waste, it's actually hot. And if you can sit there and use it for 200 years, it's good stuff. And finally, you end up with useful products. Like you end up with what is that metal? Rhodium, which is one of those really rare metals, and I have no idea what it's good for, but it's something. And
I like it. But it's funny, not everyone's against nuclear, right? I think some people are. Sam says, I live near, is that Jinnah nuclear plant, power plant upstairs, and I'm a huge fan of nuclear. The old plants were very safe, and the new plants are even better. It's a far better alternative than battery alts. My issue is, and the reason why I like it is, if you had good nuclear energy, safe nuclear energy, put that, combine that with desalinization plants, I mean, you can save the world.
Yes.
I mean, literally, you could save the world if you had good nuclear power plus desalinization. You've got virtually unlimited energy, not unlimited, but as close as we're going to get unlimited energy.
Yeah.
And then as close as you're going to get unlimited fresh water. If you've
And
got energy and fresh water.
That's the key, Larry. You have hit on it. And that's the thing. Our wars are not just about oil. They're also about water. But if we can desalinate water cheaply and easily and get fresh water to the poorest of the poor, then all of a sudden the world changes for all these potential Teslas and Einsteins out there. And we can give them the prosperity that they need, just the toothbrush that they need to make inventions that are going to end up benefiting both of our lives in ways that I'm not smart enough to imagine, but I know it's possible. I know that the benefits are there. All we have to do is bring this prosperity to humanity. And so it's really a matter of trying to do good. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, why wasn't I on this 20 years ago? But at least I'm on it now. And it's one of those things, it's like, I don't want to bring up Indian Point too much, but it's like the battle for liberty. It's kind of a losing proposition sometimes, and you're sitting there losing these battles, but still, that you're on the right side. That you've got to do this for the sake of humanity. Even though I don't have any kids, I have, kids that I love, and I want this prosperity for their world after I'm gone. And the only way to get it is to get advocated. And this is one of those ideas like cannabis that the Democrats and Republicans, even if libertarians never take off, it's a good enough idea that the Democrats and Republicans have to grab onto it.
Eventually, I think you're right. They'll take it eventually, and they'll take it because it'll be they will take it once they can use it as a sledgehammer against the other, right? Once either side can attack the other with it, that's when they'll jump on that. They'll be like, why don't you guys like this amazing thing that I've always loved? So now I can beat you over the head with it. They'll do that. The second once it becomes an effective weapon against the other, that's when one of them will pick it up, because then they'll realize it'll work. But let me keep going down this road. Matthew asks, he says, modular reactors can go underground, operate at atmospheric pressure, have a dump tank, and can produce anywhere from 50 megawatts to 100 megawatts. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I think he might be talking about the same thing I'm talking about, but there's a few kinds. There's molten salt. There's a thing called pebble bed reactors that I'm not as in love with, but look, I love nuclear fission. Okay, so I can't say I'm against them, but I want something that's either a liquid or a gas to do my chemistry in. I'm a chemistry geek, and so I know that chemistry needs things to mix, and solids don't mix really well. Liquids and gases are what mix, and so that's
the scientific libertarian says you can't make a bomb with less than 95% enriched uranium. Not a good one anyway. Nuclear uses 5%. Is that true? Is the scientific libertarian lying to me?
Well, no, it's something like that. I mean, the thing is, bomb uranium is totally different than nuclear power uranium. He's right about that. And
you want to say that more often, James. You want to say that a lot because people are afraid of that.
Yeah, and the thing is, every time I talk about uranium-238, people think it's uranium-239. And so and also there's this other problem. Okay, the word fission sounds so much like fusion. And the words million, billion, and trillion sound so much like each other. And our minds, or at least my mind, okay, I don't know about your mind is better than mine. I'm convinced of that already. But my mind can't really grasp these things that are that big, So I have to, somebody has to tell me, well, there's 33 years or something in a trillion seconds. And then I'm like, oh shit, and a billion seconds is only, I don't know, 12 years. I'm not sure, but it scares me. I mean, my badness at math scares me because I know probably a common human characteristic. And I know that, and I can't get any better at it. At this point,
well, the scientific libertarian tells me, he says, Democrats' favorability of nuclear energy changed from 37% to 60% from 2018 to 2022. I hope that's true. Thank you. That's amazing.
That is cool.
I love that. That's great. Let's hope that's true. I love that. That's
I wonder
awesome.
what happened though. Like, which Democrat is doing that for us? Because I want to thank him or her, and I don't even know.
Absolutely.
I
It's a
mean,
great
I'm
idea.
totally
Robert
clueless.
says rhodium is used in catalytic converters.
Mm-hmm.
There we
Along with
go.
platinum or palladium. I mean, it's one of those things where I think the platinum and palladium are kind of interchangeable depending on which one's cheaper. And oh man, I don't want to go back into palladium. In my old Eagle days, I had we had a bar from Norilsk Nickel, which was the major and still is the major palladium producer, and it was 100 ounces, and it was so beautiful, Larry. It had concentric circles like etched into it, and this was made in the old USSR where they had money to waste on shit like that, and it had the
We have
hammer.
it too.
Yeah, it had the hammer and sickle and all that. And, I'm not a communist or anything like that, but I would have wanted to take a cold saw and saw that part of the bar off and save the hammer and sickle of.
Well, you can still see beauty in stuff like that. It doesn't matter if it happens to be a communist symbol. You can still see beauty. It's possible. So,
Yeah, I wanted to own the communist symbol and own a piece of palladium without owning an entire 100-ounce bar. And,
there we go.
the boss
Missy
said,
said
"Oh,
you can support us by
idiot,
liking, commenting, and sharing. And she is right, guys. Remember, if you like what we're talking about, do me a favor, like, comment, share. It does matter. This kind of stuff's important. Make sure you're letting people know what's going on. It does matter. If you want to support the show, click that link to the right-hand side or left-hand side, wherever it is where you're looking. It says libertarianism.com. That link, click that link, go there, check out libertarianism.com. Share it if you haven't already, if you've done it yourself already. Take some of those classes, get some cool swag. Whatever the case may be, do that stuff because they sponsor the show. I'm able to do this because they keep doing this. They're my sponsor. They're a good way to get people to libertarianism. Libertarianism.com.
And Larry, I wanted to give you some good news. Okay.
Okay.
I am no longer. I realize that you love New York so much that I am no longer trying to get you to move to Florida. Yes. I got Spike Cohen. And I figure that all the libertarians in South Carolina now want to slit my throat. I don't need New York also wanting to slit my throat.
Did he move to Florida?
Not yet, but he said he's gonna.
Oh, look, my God, you got Spike to move out of South Carolina. Well done. Whatever you did, James, well done. Good,
I don't
man.
know. I'm still trying. I wonder where he's going to move because they like Jacksonville, which I like too. They like Siesta Key, which would be very close to me. So that's the me choice. But, for weather,
like
the Florida Keys are hard to beat. It's just, if you've ever been in the Florida Keys, even when the weather is bad elsewhere, it's kind of the ocean, it's not that bad there, But what was I going to say? I'm not gonna ask you to move to Florida. I know you're gonna stay in New York, hopefully as governor, by the way.
That'd be the best. I hope so. We can hope.
Okay, my advice compare the last campaign. Your kids are so cute, and you don't use them venally enough. You must be evil and venal and use those cute.
I gotta keep using my kids. All right,
yes.
That's what I got. I appreciate the advice. That's good. Juan says even the Democrats are beginning to realize that their Teslas are coal powered. Oh, I like that, and beginning to open up to nuclear power option. Juan, I think you're right in the money with this one. I got like the funny thing is most people, they just think if I'm not putting gasoline in the car, then it's clean, right? That's how they think, right? I'm not putting gas in the car, therefore it's clean. Well, what do you mean it's clean? Well, see, no gas in the car. Yeah, but there's a coal-fired plant burning so that you could get the electricity. And I think most people are still like, what? No, it's magically clean from the magic electricity elves who just give me magical electricity. But no, you're right. It's I think Juan is correct. We have to make a lot of changes, right? But what we're doing, the problem that I have is where in New York State and across the country, California's the same thing. We are banning all the bad energy. And I'm doing that with my air quotes. We're banning the bad energy, but then we're not giving people a realistic alternative. And then when there are brownouts, which there are in California already, when there are blackouts in here in New York, which there were in Texas, when there are blackouts, well, that was because of weather. But when there are brownouts and blackouts, when that happens, who we're going to blame, right? Who we're going to blame? And we're going to wind up saying, well, it was, I don't know, global warming, I guess. I don't know. We're going to blame something, but we won't blame the people who just wouldn't allow us to do what we should do. And we don't have enough leaders who are saying, just do it, go and do something. And your point about the Manhattan Project, it's the same idea, believe it or not, as what should have happened was something like COVID. Something scary happens, so we just start doing stuff. We're scared, so do stuff. We're scared, so make a bomb. We're scared, so shut down the businesses. We're scared. What I'm saying is, if we're scared, let's do something smart, not something stupid. So if we're scared of global warming, and most of the world is, awesome. I got it. We're all scared of global warming. Let's make some safe nuclear. How about that? Let's make some safe nuclear.
The reason nuclear is so vulnerable to the hysteria and all that is that radiation can kill you, but it's invisible and you can't taste it or smell it or see it.
So can gas in your house.
I know, but people don't feel that scared of that, you know, and they put the rotten egg smell in the gas and all that, you know. They're just not as scared of other sources as they are of nuclear. And it's kind of understandable, but it's kind of not. And I'll tell you why it's not, because I always go, we're late enough in the show now that I can start talking about radiation hormesis. And as it turns out, this is not a conspiracy theory. The health effects of radiation are not black and white. It's not one way or the other. And I'll give you an example. Ultraviolet radiation from the sun, a giant fusion reactor, okay, a little bit of sunlight gives us vitamin D, and that helps us. I mean, too much sunlight, like I did most of my life, gives us skin cancer, and we must use cannabis extracts and try to fight off the skin cancer. But there's probably a happy medium, okay? And the same goes with radiation. And it turns out that people can take a little bit of radiation, and how we found that out, there's not an ethical way to do that kind of an experiment, but there are people who have made, you know, that they made a Taiwanese skyscraper, I guess, and how he got the cobalt steel for his Taiwanese skyscraper is by using cobalt 60, which is really hot. It's like 4-year half-life or something like that. So it's really, really radioactive. And so they build this skyscraper and go about their business. This skyscraper's done. And about 4 or 5 years later, somebody brings a Geiger counter into the skyscraper and says, holy shit, you know, this place is radioactive. The whole thing is radioactive. Every girder, every rebar in here is radioactive. And what they found out, so they looked at the health of the people, and they found out these people were healthier. They had less cancer. They had less problems. And this is a weird ass result that I would expect people, you know, would publicize around the world. And instead,
why would you publicize my building's radioactive? That'd be scary.
But I want to build a radioactive building and live in it if it's that healthy, you know. I mean, I don't know. It's just what it says is that there obviously too much radiation will kill you. And obviously no radiation, at least in terms of someone as white as me getting no sun, will also kill you. There's a happy medium with your ultraviolet. There's probably a happy medium with all the kinds of radiation. And the fact is, you know, we've just got to be a little bit more rational about this stuff, a little bit less hysterical.
So you've talked to people about this, right? So
all the time.
So when you're talking to people, I've got to feel like people, I feel like it's got to be the same old thing, right? If it's so good, why hasn't someone done it, right? If it's so good, why hasn't someone, that's what I get, right? Larry, if it's so good, why hasn't someone done it? Is it only because of fear? Is it just because of fear? And what I think is, it's when I was in sales, and when I do teaching, when I teach in sales, I said, when you're selling to a business, when you are selling to a business, you generally speaking, unless you're very special, will be one of two things: the most popular or the cheapest. Those two you want to be, either the most popular or the cheapest, one or the other. And people would say, well, why? So when you sell to a business, they're not worried about it working unless they're the owner. They worry about not getting in trouble. That's what they care about. They don't care if it works. They don't want to get in trouble. So if you're the most popular, then they can go to the boss and say, well, boss, I got the most popular one. How can you be mad at me? Right? We were picking a service that delivers. I picked FedEx. How can you be mad at me if FedEx screws up? If FedEx makes a mistake and I picked FedEx, the boss gets mad at FedEx. But if I pick James Ray Express and it doesn't go wrong, he goes, what happened? Why'd you pick James Ray? Why'd you pick him? Now I'm in trouble, right? So I got to pick the one that is the most popular, or I got to pick the one that's the cheapest, just dirt cheap, right? Because I was on a money, boss. I picked it because I was saving us money. Only two ways I'm going to pick something as a general rule. Now, that's very generic, obviously. But I think the same thing happens here when it comes to nuclear energy. It's unknown. If a regular power plant goes down, we blame the grid or we blame the power plant, whatever. We don't blame the people. We blame the grid of the power plant. But if a nuclear power plant goes down, if it goes wrong, we're going to say, who the hell authorized the nuclear power plant?
Yeah. Who designed it? You know,
who designed it? Who authorized it? Yes. Right. Even though the guy or gal who designed the regular power plant, the coal power plant, might have been an idiot, might have screwed it up. Who knows? Right. But we don't blame them. We just go, the grid didn't work. When it's something that's not the norm, whatever we think of as the norm, that's the gamble. And I think you have to have somebody, usually an executive, a mayor, a governor, a president, an executive get behind it and go, I'm in. What happens, happens. I'm in. You want to get mad? Yell at me. You got to have someone who wants to do that. And the sad part is we don't have anyone who'll do that.
Yeah, and it'll come, Larry. It'll come. We're gonna have like the Nayib Bukele or whatever the guy in El Salvador is. There's gonna be a nuclear country or a nuclear state if you get elected governor. And by the way, I would be a great employee. I would move to New York for that kind of a job. You know,
I love that.
Just to pester FPL. You know, I mean, well, not FPL, whatever nuclear company. You know, just to get them on the road to these reactors. Because what I was going to tell you earlier, the energy from thorium caucus is kind of a romantic idea, but what it actually ends up being is the reactors that I think are obsolete caucus, you know, and I don't like to call them obsolete, you know, but they kind of are, you know. I mean, it's solid fuel. It's using water. Water is under incredible pressure, you know. Steam explosions are super dangerous, and so, you know, I'm making this compromise because I want fission, but what I really want is fission in molten salt. I don't want this kind of, you know, lame fission that I'm advocating. And so it's like all of politics, I guess. It's an exercise in hypocrisy, but I'm the chief hypocrite in charge until somebody displaces me, and I kind of hope somebody does, you know, because we've got so many smart people in the caucus. There are so many ex-military folks off the nuclear subs and all that.
Yes,
I've forgotten all their names, but they have served.
No. This is the point. I want to be very clear. The plan is to build 3 Gen 4 nuclear power plants in the North Country of New York State. That's the plan, and to begin that immediately, and to do that right away. Just to start in fact, the second that after the election results come in, we begin the process. That much. I want it right away because I want them in. I would rather have them, and I say them, I mean the federal government. I would rather have the federal government have to stop me with literally sending the National Guard in or sending in soldiers. I'd rather have that happen. Why? Because if I have that happen, then we'll have to talk about this. And we don't. We just don't talk about this. So I would, if CNN has to watch me holding hands so that while the feds come in, then at least I'll be on CNN, damn it. So at least I'll be on CNN and people actually see it. So I am totally okay with this idea.
Are you imagining this happening on the Indian Point site? Because I'm kind of hoping.
No.
Oh, okay. Because I would hope to replace that site because there's so much connection. There's so much grid already connected to it.
No. I actually want to rebuild the whole thing. I want a full reboot of the grid. I want overlapping grids so that if one goes down, the other 2 can support the grid. I want to make sure that the grid is broken up so that you can't take down the entire grid, so that we're actually much more cyber-proof. The reality of it is a cyber attack against the grid. If they try hard enough, they can take down any grid. But I want to make my grid so difficult that they don't bother trying because there are so many other grids to easily knock out. So they'll go knock out maybe, I don't know, Canada's grid or something. Sorry, Canada. But whatever. If they don't knock out somebody's grid, just not my grid. So I think that's the point. I want multiple overlapping grids with three separate power plants. And if we do that, that allows two things. It allows for desalination plants down by New York City, which means now upstate doesn't have to ship us water down to us anymore, because we have tons of water here, salt water, but we'll make it fresh water. So it gives New York State fresh water, New York City fresh water without taking it from New York State. And the best part is now we're able to be very friendly to the blockchain mining. Blockchain mining is very friendly when obviously you got nuclear power plants. Now we're happy to bring all the cryptocurrencies and other blockchain miners, bring them all here to New York State. We got nuclear power plants. So that's the plan as soon as possible. In my perfect world, I get 3 built in 6 years.
That would be great.
That's my perfect world.
I would be happy with 1, but
I'm not building 1. I'm building 3. So if I get 1, I get 3. So I either get 0 or I get 3. I'm not building 1. 1 is not good enough. I have to fix my broken state. I need 3 because I have to be able to sell extra energy to create a fund to pay for all the debt that we have.
You're right.
So I can't do just 1. I have to have enough energy that I can sell it so I can take care of our debt and our horrible budget. You're lucky you live in Florida. You have more people than we have, yet you have half the budget. You have no state income tax.
Well, we have idiocy, and believe me, every single one of our major newspapers has wet dreams every night about having a state income tax in Florida. I can guarantee you, okay? The Orlando Sentinel, the Tampa Bay Times, the Miami Herald, the Jacksonville, whatever the fuck they are now. I mean, every damn one of them wants an income tax in Florida, but they know it's so unpopular that they don't even say it anymore. But
absolutely.
They will find a way if they can. And what I want in Florida, of course, is more nuclear. And one of the things that nuclear does that is not really thought of by non-Floridians is it heats water, okay? And it turns out that there's water discharges that have been outlawed now by the EPA because this is pollution. The heat is pollution. But there's water discharges that help the manatees. And the Florida manatees are kind of one of these lumbering creatures, and I love them because I like all Florida creatures. But, they're kind of ridiculous.
But hold on. You're saying your Florida wants a state income tax? You mean...
No. I want to help the manatees. I don't want a state income tax at all.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was confused. I got you.
Okay, discharge hot water for the manatees. But what I've discovered, I've actually talked to the manatee bureaucrats. The hot water.
There's manatee bureaucrats.
Yes, and not only that, Larry, you'll love this. Guess where they're located?
Jacksonville.
Gainesville. The furthest possible city from any manatees.
Perfect. Perfect. Yes.
Remember, this is a government. Anyway, I've spoken to them. And what they're kind of on my side, but what they said is that, look, the EPA has outlawed hot water discharges for nuclear plants. And so even if you get your 2 extra reactors at Turkey Point, which FPL has permission to build. So I'm bitching at them to build it. And believe me, FPL has gotten used to ignoring James anyway. But anyway, I should tweet at them again tonight. But
hold on. You're telling me that I don't understand how you're helping manatees. I don't get it.
Well, the heat helps manatees just because they're mammals like us. And
so thank you. Okay, that's why. Thank you. Okay, now I got it. Okay, got it. Good.
You eat this horrible seagrass, although apparently they think it tastes good. What they really like is iceberg lettuce, which is like crack cocaine for manatees, and you're not allowed to feed them that. Don't feed manatees iceberg lettuce.
I was gonna, so I'm glad that you've told me. I will now not do that. Okay,
you must break the law and feed them romaine. Has more chlorophyll. But anyway,
so let me ask you, James, before we wrap this up, tell me, is there anything else that I've missed?
Oh God, we could talk another hour, but let's have another show instead. But no, there's nothing you've missed. You got to get elected governor. Clearly,
I agree.
the important thing, because I can't get you to move to Florida, and so
I love it.
I need a friendly government. If I'm going to go up to New York again, ever again, I need a friendly New York government with reasonable priced electricity and reasonable priced hotel
I
rooms.
love that.
All that stuff. And I love your perseverance. And, we've got to keep on this road to, getting people to understand that, look, voting for Cuomo last time instead of this man was a complete, this man.
No one who's watching is going to vote for Cuomo again.
But it was a mistake the first time. Believe me,
yes.
It was a terrible mistake.
Absolutely.
This guy is a really, really good guy who could be a great governor and would make us proud. And
so James, I'm going to let you run. Come up in an hour. I'm going to let you run. Good talking to you. We will be talking very soon, my friend.
Thank you so much.
All righty. So I want to grab some of the comments if I could. Guys, I hope you enjoyed James, him chatting, all the things that he talked about. Guy, he knows his stuff. He cares about this. He's passionate. And if you want to check out the Alliance, the link is right there. Thorium Energy Alliance. Please check that out. You can hang out with him and see what you want to do, chat, whatever the case may be. That would be awesome. So, all right, let me grab a couple of these questions. David says, what about desalination and polluted oceans in New York City? Would the water be purified at the same time? Could the salt from the desalination plant be sold? I guess you could, but I'm not sure that you'd want to be forward with you. I don't know. Depends how much we're doing, right? If we're doing massive desalination, if it's a massive thing, then we might actually wind up affecting the ocean over time, right? Short period of time, it wouldn't affect the ocean at all. If it's just New York City, the ocean's far too vast for it to matter. But if this is something that's happening across the globe, it's happening in China and India and all the islands, if that's happening, we may have to put the salt back into the ocean if it happens that much. But I don't think that we will need that much. I don't think we'd have to. I don't think so. So Jim says, you'll need more than 3 to put a dent in our debt. I don't think so, Jim, because once we start to pay it back, things will change. Once we start doing this in general, we'll stop going into debt. One of the biggest problem with our debt is we keep going into debt. We just keep spending money. As you can see in New York State, we keep doing it. So I think we could. With just 3, I think we could. Joe says, how do we fund/invest for a nuclear power plant? Of course, it's privatized, right? They pay us. That's how I always work, right? They pay us. So you want a nuclear power plant? Awesome. You're going to lease the land, state land. You lease it like you're renting a space for your store. Same thing. Come with a deal. You rent it. You pay the state. Why in the world? We do things completely backward, Joe. The state pays for everything. You're getting access to 18 million New Yorkers with a state-slapping sponsor on top of it, and we're paying for it? How stupid is that? That's not how the market works. Reverse. You want access to all these people to buy your stuff? Awesome. You're going to rent the space from me, the government. So you rent the space from me. The government gets the cash. We're not paying for it. They're paying us. Life is good. So that's how it would work. Again, always at least 2 separate companies, at least 2. I'd like 3, but that may be too much to ask for, but at least 2. Why? I want them to compete against each other, right? I want to install immediately competition directly into the system. I do not want to create at all the monopoly style that we have now. Not a big fan. David says, by the way, bottled water in Saudi Arabia comes from desalination plants. Yeah, and that's the point, right? How many people will do this? If this becomes the norm that the whole world is doing this, we might have to put it back in to be forward. I don't know what level it would be, but I'm sure scientists would know, at what level do we have to worry about not enough salt in the ocean, whatever number that is, whatever amount that is. Joe says, they will want a monopoly. Yes, that's why they're not getting it. You're correct, Joe. It's exactly right. They want a monopoly. No. Why? If I give 2 or 3 of them, they will do something else. They will rush to get online quickly. If they're not online, people will buy it from somebody else. That's the point. You are correct. They will want it. They don't get it. And there are enough. The reason why this can work in New York State, and maybe not in others, well, I shouldn't say New York State, in any state that's prepared to roll the dice for it, is because there are people who want something like this to happen. There are people who will, make it happen. And if I'm going to give them that option, they'll jump on the option. They'll jump on the chance. So I do think it could happen. The second or third state to do it, they might start negotiating monopolies. That might happen. But this one, no. The Scientific Libertarian says most plastic we use is useless and recycling it is a scam and ends up in the ocean. It's made from petroleum, the PET plastic. The less you rely on fission fuels, the less you have frivolous. I think you mean the more? Oh, fossil fuels. Gotcha. The less you rely on fossil fuels, the less frivolous plastic. Yes, correct. Yes, and this is another thing, right? There has got to be a way, I don't know what that way is, to get the plastic out of the ocean. Again, I don't know what that way is, but I'm assuming there's got to be a way. Some scientist can figure out whatever is the way. Do you make a machine that goes across the top and pulls out the plastic? I don't know what the answer is. But if you have nuclear reactors that could physically be on a ship, which we know we can, we've got them on our large ships already, that could go through and clean the ocean. Now we're rocking and rolling. Again, once you have that much energy, there's so much you can do. If you could have a nuclear powered, again, I'm making this up for the sake of argument. I don't know what the actual answer is, but some surface ship that goes along and sucks the plastic up and gets rid of it and puts good water out the back or whatever, or dissolves the plastic or whatever is the way of doing it. The problem is some of the plastic is so small that you can't physically just pick it up. That's no longer an option, right? It's been broken down that you just can't, you couldn't physically pick it up. There's got to be some type of either mechanical or chemical reaction or whatever the case may be to get rid of it. So yeah, maybe there's some type of machine that does that. Put a nuclear reactor on top, set it off. And if it takes 5 years or 20 years or 100 years to clean the ocean, so what? Clean the ocean, right? Whatever that amount of time is, go do it. Well, Larry, you might kill some fish on the way. We're killing fish left and right now. So if we're going to clean the ocean and kill some fish, I'd rather clean the ocean and kill some fish than pollute the ocean and kill some fish. We're making the ocean better for everybody. So yes, that's what I think. So Brian says the standard thing now is to dump the hot, highly salinized water back into the ocean. It makes a great hot tub effect to sit in the discharge. Well, there we go. I like that. There we go. I love it. Whatever the answer is, I don't have to worry about that, right? I don't need to be concerned right now, at least, about that idea, because whatever the rule is, whatever the thing is, we'll figure it out. Let's get the energy first. Let's get the energy first and then figure it out. That's the issue. Joe says microplastic. Yes, thank you. James says the ocean Roomba. Yes, Jimmy, it is an ocean Roomba. Why not? The place is filthy, and all we're doing now is nothing. All we're doing now is putting more masks into the ocean. That's all we're doing now. Absolutely. P. Gray says markets will find an answer to plastics in the ocean faster than the government will. Yes. But again, this goes back to what I was talking about, right? It's kind of like the Manhattan Project in a way, except we've got to find it without having to go to war and bomb people. I'm going to give credit to Trump. I know he does too, but I will also for the idea of the Operation Warp Speed. One of the best things that was in that is he said the first person, basically the people who do this, who make it, will get guaranteed government contracts. We will buy a bunch of stuff, right? And that was basically what it was. I mean, there's other things, obviously, but the centerpiece was, we're going to buy these vaccines. If you make them, we will buy them. You have a guaranteed customer. When people hear guaranteed customer, they go, oh, I'll make some stuff. You're going to buy it. Yes, I'll buy it. If it works, I'll buy it. When they hear guaranteed customer, they work. We need something like that for this. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure exactly what that would be. It'd be the national level, maybe even international level, where once you create the, as Jimmy says, the ocean Roomba, right? We get a bunch of people to say, yes, we will buy it. Maybe the Germans will buy it. The Japanese will buy it. The Chinese will buy it. The Americans will buy it. Or companies will buy it. Whatever. We'll get it to where people or nonprofits will buy it. We get to where, look, if you get this thing out, you've got guaranteed buyers. We want this thing. and we'll buy it. You do something like that, home run, right? Or maybe you give them a special thing where they get, X number up top guaranteed at a certain price. And then after that, they have to go to the market, but they get a special, 1 year, 2 years, whatever. You give them some type of deal to where we're going to buy from you, for X number of time, 1 year, 2 years, whatever. Then let the market go. And they go, Larry, are you kind of stopping the market? Yeah, right now there is no market. So let me be a little bit unfair to get this thing going. And then people keep moving. Here's the best part. If we're buying the ocean Roombas from company A, company B knows, and company C also knows that, in 2 years, we all get to be on this, or 1 year, whatever it is, we all get to be on it. Let's make it even better. This is what they'll buy from us next time. It also means company A has to improve their product also. Because if they don't improve their product after a year, we're going to buy company B's product, and so on and so on. So I think that's how you make that work. It's a fair way of doing it, fairer way of doing it. That you, without having to, spend any extra taxpayer dollars. I don't want to spend any. My rules. We pay far more than we need to pay in taxes already. We don't got to add any taxes. So none of that whatsoever. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Now, hopefully, do it right. We could sponsor it. Oh, you knew I was going to say sponsor. In the best case scenario, we sponsor this. Even better. Right? So now we get a large organization that wants to build it. Whatever. Elon Musk's people want to be, we're going to save the world. Great. Stop worrying about going to Mars. I mean, you can if you want to. I don't really care if you want to go to Mars. I don't care. Go to Mars. But also save the oceans. See? And we'll put your name on it. It'll be called the Musk Roomba. And you can go around and we'll all be on the Musk Roomba. That sounds terrible. But anyway, let's take a ride in the Musk Roomba. All good. So, guys, I hope tonight was interesting. I wanted to bring on James. Has been bugging me for a while. I'm glad I got him on. But we do have to get through this stuff. The part that I'm bringing up here that I think is most important is there are so many good ideas that don't get done. And one of the biggest reasons why they don't get done is for the example of the NRC, which is most government agencies are incentivized to do nothing. They're incentivized to make sure nothing gets done, no one moves forward, to take no chances whatsoever. That's not how you progress. That's not how you progress. We have to change that mindset within all of our agencies, all of them. And of course, as you know, I always say, create community options for all of the agencies. And a government agency can exist, but there should also be another option, right? If there's going to be NASA, there should also be SpaceX, right? If there's going to be whatever, there should also be something else. So we have to make sure we do that. That's a critical piece. All right, guys, I'm going to let you all run. I will be on a special podcast tomorrow. I'll let you know where that's going to be at 8 p.m. I will see you all